Here's the lowdown on the war between the USA and Iran in 2026, and it's a doozy. I'm breaking it down into 10 parts, so grab a drink and settle in. Part 1. Tensions rise. It was a chilly winter morning in January 2026 when tensions between the USA and Iran reached a boiling point. The US had imposed crippling economic sanctions on Iran, citing concerns over its nuclear program. Iran, feeling suffocated, had been secretly building up its military arsenal. One night, a US drone was shot down over Iranian airspace, and the US accused Iran of aggression. Iran denied involvement, but the damage was done. The US Congress authorized military action, and the USS Nimitz carrier strike group was dispatched to the Persian Gulf. Part 2. The war begins on February 27, 2026. The US launched Operation Epic Fury, a series of airstrikes targeting Iranian military infrastructure. Iran retaliated with ballistic missiles, striking US bases in Iraq and the Gulf. The war had begun. Ayatollah Khamenei vowed to defend the nation, while US President Donald Trump promised to protect American interests. The world held its breath as the conflict escalated. Part 3. The Battle for the Strait. The US Navy blockaded the Strait of Hormuz, crippling Iran's oil exports. Iran's Revolutionary Guard launched naval attacks, trying to break the blockade. The USS Cole, a US destroyer, was hit by an Iranian missile, killing dozens of sailors. The US responded with airstrikes on Iranian naval bases, sinking several ships. Iran's proxy forces in Iraq and Lebanon launched attacks on US targets, drawing the region into chaos. Part 4. Cyber warfare. As the war raged on, both sides engaged in intense cyber warfare. Iran's hackers targeted US critical infrastructure, causing widespread power outages. The US retaliated with its own cyber attacks, disrupting Iran's banking system. The US also launched a series of satellite attacks, crippling Iran's communication networks. Iran responded by jamming US satellite signals, plunging its forces into chaos. Part 5. The Battle for Tehran. US and Iranian forces clashed in the streets of Tehran. With the US-backed opposition group, the People's Resistance Movement, fighting alongside US special forces. The Iranian government was on high alert, with Ayatollah Khamenei relocating to a secret underground bunker. The US launched a massive airstrike on Tehran, targeting key government buildings. Iran's air defense system, however, managed to shoot down several US planes. Part 6. The global economic impact. The war sent shockwaves through the global economy. Oil prices skyrocketed and stock markets plunged. The US faced criticism for its handling of the conflict, with China and Russia calling for an immediate ceasefire. The US dollar strengthened, but the global trade was severely impacted. Japan and South Korea, heavily reliant on Middle Eastern oil, faced severe energy shortages. Part 7. The humanitarian crisis. Millions of civilians were displaced as the war raged on. Hospitals were overwhelmed, and aid agencies struggled to reach those in need. The UN called for a humanitarian ceasefire, but both sides refused. Iran's Basij militia was accused of atrocities against civilians, further inflaming anti-Iran sentiment. The US faced criticism for its own civilian casualties, particularly in Tehran. Part 8. The Proxy War. Iran's proxy forces, including Hezbollah and the Houthis, launched attacks on U.S. targets worldwide. A Hezbollah drone struck a U.S. warship in the Mediterranean, killing dozens of sailors. The U.S. responded by targeting Hezbollah's leadership, killing several top commanders. The conflict threatened to draw in other regional players, including Israel and Saudi Arabia. Part 9. The nuclear threat. As the war dragged on, Iran's nuclear program became a major concern. The U.S. intelligence reported that Iran was moving nuclear material to a secret underground site. The U.S. considered a preemptive strike, but the risks were deemed too high. Israel, however, vowed to act if the U.S. didn't, further escalating tensions. Part 10. The ceasefire. After months of brutal fighting, both sides agreed to a temporary ceasefire brokered by China and Russia. The war had achieved little, with both sides claiming victory. The U.S. had crippled Iran's military, but at a huge cost. Iran's regime remained intact, and its nuclear program was still a concern. The region was left scarred, and the global economy was in shambles. The ceasefire was fragile, and tensions remained high. The world held its breath, wondering if the war would resume and what the next phase of the conflict would bring. The war between the USA and Iran has reached a stalemate, with peace talks in Islamabad failing to yield a deal. The US had proposed a 20-year halt to uranium enrichment, but Iran countered with a 5-year suspension, which was deemed unacceptable by the US. Iran's envoy blamed the US for the failed talks, citing unlimited demands. The US has announced a maritime blockade on Iranian ports, effective April 13, 2026, aiming to pressure Iran into negotiations. However, Iran's supreme leader has vowed to defend the nation, and the Revolutionary Guards have warned that any vessel approaching the Strait of Hormuz will be considered a ceasefire breach. Iran has warned of severe consequences if military vessels approach the strait, and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has threatened to deal harshly with any breaches of the ceasefire. The global economy is feeling the pinch, with oil prices surging above $100 a barrel. The US has been clearing mines from the Strait of Hormuz, and its military has been overseeing the blockade. Iran's oil exports have been severely impacted, with the country losing around $150 million a day in revenue. The situation remains volatile, with both sides engaged in a war of words. As the world watches, the ceasefire hangs in the balance. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has expressed optimism about ongoing diplomatic efforts, while Iran's supreme leader has vowed to defend the nation.